Hey guys, if you are here watching this video, make sure you just watch the video about parallel lines and right angles, because you're going to want to know what a set of parallel lines are and what a right angle is before you start this video, okay? So really quickly, just to review, parallel lines, are lines that if they went on forever and ever, they would never meet, okay? And right angles are those sort of squared off looking angles. They're also called 90-degree angles, and we used our right angle tester to check for things that were right angles. Oh, I forgot to write down. Right angles can also be called 90-degree angles. Okay, this is a symbol that means degrees. So today we're going to look at some cookie quadrilaterals, and we're going to take a look for some parallel lines and for some right angles, okay? And while we do this, we're also going to review the names of some quadrilaterals that we're familiar with and some that might be new, okay? I'm gonna start by grabbing this cookie right here, because this one looks familiar to me. This cookie is meant to be a square. And when I take a look at this square, and I look for any parallel lines, I'm gonna get out my sort of whiteboard marker and take a look and see if these lines went on forever and ever and ever onto the whiteboard, they would never touch. So we have at least one set of parallel lines. There are also some quadrilaterals that have two sets of parallel lines. So let's take a look. If this line right here and this line right here went on forever and ever and ever out onto my whiteboard, they would also never touch. So that means that when we're talking about a square, we're talking about a shape that has two sets of those parallel lines. So I'm going to take my square and I'm going to sort it right here because it has two sets of parallel lines. And then underneath, so that I don't forget, I'm going to write square. S-Q-U-A-R-E. Okay? So if you're doing this in your notebook, you might write down that a square has two sets of parallel lines. Okay. All right, let's take a look at another pretty familiar quadrilateral. A lot of us are familiar with the rectangle. A rectangle is kind of similar to a square, except that instead of having four sides that are the same length, it has two longer sides that are the same length as each other and two shorter sides that are the same length as each other. Okay, but let's check this rectangle to see if it has any parallel lines. If I were to take a look at these two longer sides that are on the top and the bottom right now, if they went on forever and ever and ever and ever, those two lines would never meet. So a rectangle has at least one set of parallel lines. Let's take a look at these shorter sides right here that are going up and down right now. So if this side went on forever and ever and ever and forever and ever and ever, and this side also went on forever and ever and ever and forever and ever and ever, those lines would never meet. So that tells me that we can sort the rectangle in the same place that we sorted the square because it has two sets of those parallel lines. So I'm going to write rectangle, R-E-C-T-A-N-G-L-E, rectangle. Okay, now we're going to get into some quadrilaterals that some of us might be a little bit less familiar with. Okay, let's start with the rhombus. Here's our rhombus. Okay, so just like all our other quadrilaterals, it's got four sides. But if I took this line and went on forever and ever and ever, and then I went over to this opposite side over here and went on forever and ever and ever, forever and ever and ever, those lines would never meet, so they're parallel. And then if we take a look at the other set of opposite sides, if this line went on forever and ever and ever, and this line, ooh, that was really not very good. I'm trying my best here. Went on forever and ever and ever, those lines would never meet either. Okay, so just like our square and our rectangle, the rhombus has two sets of parallel lines. So I'm going to sort it over here, two sets of parallel lines, and I'm going to write rhombus. Now I'm kind of running out of room, so I'm going to write it on an angle here, R-H-O-M-B-U-S, spelled spells rhombus. Thanks for bearing with me as I figure this out. All right, many of you are familiar already with the trapezoid. And just by looking at the trapezoid, I already feel like this is going to be different than the other ones because I'm seeing a set of lines here, and if they went on forever and ever, they would meet. So let's see if the other set of lines are parallel, because that set of lines certainly isn't. But if this top side and this bottom side went on forever and ever, they would never meet. So the trapezoid has just one set of those parallel lines. The top and the bottom in this case are parallel. And the two lines on either side, those are not parallel. There's only one set of parallel lines. So I'm going to write trapezoid underneath one set. T-R-A-P-E-Z-O-I-D spells trapezoid. Okay. And then let's take a look at the last special quadrilateral we have for today. This quadrilateral is called a parallelogram. Hey, parallelogram, parallel lines. Just by looking, can you tell if the parallelogram has one set or two sets of parallel lines? That name gives it all away, because if this top line and this bottom line went on forever, they would never meet. And if this left side and this right side went on forever and ever, they would also never meet. The parallelogram has two sets of parallel sides. So I've got very little room left down here, but I definitely need to fit in my parallelogram because it has two sets of parallel sides. P-A-R-A-L-L-O-G-R-A-M. That is a long name, parallelogram. So if you look at these special quadrilaterals, the trapezoid only has one set of parallel lines, but squares, rectangles, the rhombus, and the parallelogram all have two sets of parallel lines. So you might be asking yourself, if a square, a rectangle, a rhombus, and a parallelogram all have two sets of parallel sides, why do they look so different, and how can we tell them apart? Well, tomorrow I'm going to show a video where we're going to take these same cookie quadrilaterals and we're going to sort them by whether or not they have right angles, and that will give us our next clue. See you back here tomorrow.